I think there's Klingons on the starboard bow, Jim. What do you all think? Well, welcome to the American Space Museum. And we hope you're staying curious today. What a day to stay curious in space history. Actor William Shatner goes to the edge of space in a Blue Origin New Shepard vehicle with three other Karmanauts, we're going to call them, here at our show. And we're so glad that you're with us. We've got two astronaut birthdays. We're going to celebrate some Hispanic astronauts during Hispanic Month here in America. And of course, talk about the Shat, William Shatner, Dr. James T. Kirk going to space. And he was very emotional about it and very happy about it. And we'll have some words that he has to say. But we're so grateful that you're here with us today to support our nonprofit. Of course, for 20 years, the American Space Museum has been preserving the birth of the American space age that started right here in Brevard County. We are the delivery room of the space age. And here with me is Marty Winkle, my co-producer, cameraman, and Jessica Galloway, our computer Trekkie techie, that's bringing us a new way to reach out and show you the wonders of space for Facebook audience, YouTube, as well as Twitch. So we're all grateful for you to like us, share us, subscribe to us, follow us, repost us, whatever you can do to help us reach 1,000 people on YouTube and 10,000 on Facebook. So our nonprofit can start making a little money off of the people on social media like a lot of them are doing today. So, but we're glad to have you with us. Let's kick it off today with some birthdays. And we've got two special astronaut birthdays today. Let me get my cheaters on here. This is Rich Clifford, and happy 69th birthday to Rich Clifford here today. He was born in San Bernardino, California, but raised in Ogden, Utah. And our other birthday boy today, I'm going to show real quick, is Michael Tim Good. Was born in 1962 in Parma, Ohio. Raised in Broadview Heights, Ohio. He's 59, one of 21 or 2 astronauts that we call Ohionauts because they come from Ohio. Well, let me get my binoculars out of the way there. We're, of course, looking out the big Blue Origin window, and we're going to talk all about Shatner going to space here in just a minute. But we want to tell you a little bit about Rich Clifford here. 69 years old today, like we said, born in San Bernardino, but raised in Ogden, Utah. He had 3 space shuttle missions, STS-53, and then on STS-59 in 1994, he revealed he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and flew on STS-59, and 2 years later in 1996 on STS-76, and he did spacewalks, all right, with Parkinson's disease, and he's become a face of that disease and does a lot of work, of course, for the Parkinson's Foundation. And like all of our astronauts that are out there, they're in our communities doing great things. Like this astronaut, happy 59th birthday to Michael Good. And he was on 2 shuttle missions. He was one of the last humans to touch the space station, the Hubble Space Telescope, in 2009 on STS-125, the last service mission. And he did a hard hat construction mission, STS-132, to the International Space Station. And he retired in 2019. Good, like we said, was born in Parma, Ohio, all right, and was raised in the Cleveland area up there. So happy birthday to both of these astronauts. And like we said, we love our shuttle astronauts and the Apollo ones out there. All the Apollo ones are in their mid to late 80s, okay? Because they're in our communities talking about space and inspiring the next generation, just like we saw inspired today with that suborbital flight of Blue Origin we're going to talk about. But this is National Hispanic Month till October 15th, and we wanted to share with you on this big astronaut day on Stay Curious, the 13 Hispanic astronauts who've traveled to space. And we put together a little collage of them here, thanks to Jessica and her talents. The first Hispanic in space was actually a Cuban. There on the left is Arnaldo Mendez, and he is a Cuban military officer. Excuse me. He's in his late 70s, born in 1942. That gives him what, Marty? I'm trying to do the math there.
79.
79 years old today. Or not today, but he's 79. And he's a hero of Cuba, and he goes around talking about his experience, of course. The first and only Mexican to go to space is Rodolfo Villa there in the middle. And he's 69 years old today. And he was a payload specialist on 61B, a very early mission in 1985, 6 days in space. And then he's become a communicator and advocate with the private industry of going to space. And the man on the right there, boy, he's somebody you want to know, and I'd love to meet, Franklin Chang Diaz. He is the Costa Rican American mechanical engineer. He is the founder and current CEO of Ad Astra Rocket Company, and he has visions of sending payloads to space. He is an American citizen. He's Costa Rican on his mother's side and Chinese on his father's side. And he is a veteran of 7 space shuttle missions, tying Jerry Ross for the most American space flights of all time, and that's 7. And he's done all kinds of great things in space, of course. And we celebrate him, Chang Diaz there. Had a great NASA career and doing, like I said, doing great things with Ad Astra. 4 more Hispanic astronauts of note. And this is the order that they went to space, by the way. Next in space, and the 6th Hispanic to go to space was Sid Gutierrez there in the left-hand corner. And Sid is the current chairman of the board of Bias Space, which is our hometown Cocoa Village headquartered space company that's going to launch rockets with plastic and fuel. And we're going to partner with Bias Space and have our Hubble Gallery transformed to a Via Gallery. And you'll be hearing about Sid Gutierrez on Stay Curious, as we've been promised that he'll interview us one day. Sid grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he had 2 space missions, one as a commander, one as a pilot, and then one as a commander. STS-40 was his first flight in 91, and then he was commander of STS-59 in 1994. And very interesting flights. One was a space science mission in the space lab, and the other, they did radar of the whole Earth as they went below them and found amazing things. The lady there is some of the amazing things they found on that mission that Sid was commander of was underground civilizations in the Sahara Desert and so forth they didn't know existed there. Ellen Ochoa is our Hispanic astronaut there in the middle in the pumpkin orange suit. She was the first Hispanic woman to go to space, and she went 4 missions, 42 days in space as a mission specialist. And after retiring from NASA, she served as deputy director and then the first Hispanic and second female director of NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. Interestingly, Ellen is a classic flautist, and she played in the Stanford Symphony Orchestra and the marching band, and she brought her flute with her on her first mission to space. And I wonder if did any Jethro Tull riffs off of that with one of my baby boomer bands. Ian Anderson was the flautist and singer for that great group, Jethro Tull. Next, we have Michael Lopez Allegra there. Michael Allegra is 63, and he has got 3 shuttle missions, the second longest all-time EVA, almost 9 hours. And he was born in Madrid, Spain, but raised in Mission Viejo, California. And did you have a question or comment there?
Number 6.
Yep.
Number 6.
And Carlos Noriega, who is a URA Marine, and Noriega, I think he just recently had a birthday, Marty, because we talked about him and gave him an URA shout out. He's 62, and 3 EVAs, He was born in Lima, Peru, but of course is becoming a U.S. citizen. And he was on the 6th shuttle mission to rendezvous and dock with with Mir, and I think he was one of the first people to do a Mir space station EVA. And then he went on Endeavour and STS-97, the fifth mission dedicated to the assembly of the space station in ours. And we're going to bring with you tomorrow the other 8 through 13 of the Hispanic astronauts. Celebrate them as we are talking about Hispanic Heritage Month here that encompasses all of the South American and Central American countries, and as part of National Heritage Month that ends October 15th. So, well, let's get to the fun part of today, and that, of course, is talking about oh, there we go. You already, I wasn't as small as I thought I was there, Jessica, on doing the thing there. Here we have what is officially the Blue Origin New Shepard-18 crew. Okay, and from right to left there, let's give you the names of our new Karmanauts, and we'll tell you why we're going to call our suborbital astronauts Karmanauts. You have there is Chris Boson on the right, and Glenn DeVries is next to him, and they paid $250,000 or something like that for this suborbital flight. And then you've got, of course, William Shatner. You can kind of tell William's belly there. But he is 90 years old, and Blue Origin's Audra Powers. She's the vice president of the astronauts. They're calling them astronauts to go up there. And we're not going to quibble about the semantics or anything about who and what's an astronaut. We're just going to simply say we like to call people astronauts that have orbited the Earth, and those that have not done suborbital missions. We love them and brave as they are and so forth, but we're going to distinguish that group by calling them Karmanauts.
Spaceflight is spaceflight.
And spaceflight is spaceflight. They got on a rocket and they did something that Alan Shepard did in 1962, and then Gus Grissom for America. But those gentlemen both also orbited the Earth on Apollo missions later. Not Grissom. I'm sorry, Grissom. We lost him in the Apollo 1 fire. He did the maiden flight of Gemini. And there certainly is a healthy debate going on today of who's an astronaut, who isn't. Hey, these people went to the edge of space. They saw something that less than 600 people, let's put it that way, have seen in the history of the Earth. So we give them their cred, but we also want to distinguish the suborbital flights from the orbital ones. In the Karman line, I'm going to show you here, where does space begin? Well, the Federal International Aviation Association, that kind of monitors all aviation for the world, says space begins at roughly 100 kilometers or 62 miles above the Earth's surface. And here we see on this map here, you see the troposphere, the stratosphere is where meteors burn up. There's a mesosphere that's still got a lot of atmosphere molecules in it. And then the Karman line. And this is not where there's a void of atmosphere, all right? It's something that this man, Theodore Karman, that he came up with this line, not an arbitrary line. And let me get my notes on Mr. Karman here. Is named after Theodor von Karman, who lived till 1963. He was a Hungarian-American engineer and physicist who was active in aeronautics and astronautics. He made many key advances in aerodynamics, most notably supersonic and hypersonic airflow characterizations, so important in designing those wings for supersonic and hypersonic speed. He's regarded as the outstanding aerodynamic theoretician of the 20th century, and died in 1963. So he's not around to see his line being debated as one of the definitive marks of going to space or not. However, as I go back to that line, you see that above it is where the International Space Station is, 250 miles high, and Aurora, the Aurora Borealis and Aurora Australis in the southern hemisphere, it all happens above this 100-mile Karman line. So that is, and the aurora is particles from the sun interacting with our atmosphere through friction and burning up. So 100 miles, you're still not out of the atmosphere. And if the space shuttle just flew at 100 miles,
50 miles,
they would have to keep boosting it up. All right, the space shuttle was also at around 200 to 250 miles high. If it was lower than that, it wouldn't stay there very long, and gravity would pull them down. So if they went lower, they had to go back up. And certainly spacecraft have orbited the Earth with a low of 50 miles and then go up to 300 or 400 miles in elliptical orbit. That's just fine. But usually the crewed missions are in a very circular orbit, and this is why we call it the Karman line, is because of this gentleman, Karman. And my colleague and co-producer Marty Winkle suggested a few months ago that we distinguish our suborbital astronauts and call them Karmanauts. So we are. And we don't need any debate on that because we're Stay Curious here at the American Space Museum, and we think that fits our new profile of the new shepherd here. All right. There's also a band called the Karmanauts. I think that's a cool name. I don't know, are they
American Southern California or California?
are they a jam band, a punk band? What kind of
indie.
band are they?
Like
Like an indie band. Okay, the Karmanauts. So I may look that up, and though we're not playing music on our show here because of royalties and stuff get all confusing. We don't want to reach into that. We're showing you here the new Shepard profile. The liftoff of the rocket was nominal. It was so beautiful. And I watched it. We were all watching it. And when I watched it, my heart's beating. I'm a little bit excited about this for them. Okay. And there you see the Karman lines drawn there at the top. They went up 351,000 feet, which is about 67 miles. So they went well above that 100 kilometer point there, and then came back just beautifully. And here's the beautiful liftoff, okay, where thrusters on and hyperdrives on, whatever you say on a Star Trek world, to launch them off there. But I wanted to share with you because not just the Star Trek people, but the whole world entranced with this, all right? A true civilian, 90 years old actor, William Shatner, he went up and came back. And some of the things that I'm going to read a couple of the quotes that you're going to hear him say if you haven't already. One of the first ones he said was, and he was standing up outside the spaceship. Thank you for going back to that, Jessica. And he didn't sit down in a chair or nothing. And when he was starting to talk about his feelings about it, Bezos grabbed a champagne bottle and uncorked it. So I thought, let the man talk, okay. But what he had to say was, everybody in the world needs to do this, to see the blue color whip by, in the comforter of blue that we have, and whip off the sheet in blackness. It's everywhere, Shatner said. Mother Earth, comfort, and there's the blackness of space. And he pondered, I wonder if this is how death happens, he said. It was so moving, Shatner said. And then a couple other quotes. He said, this experience is something unbelievable. The covering of the blue is what I never expected, this soft blue. The beauty of that color, it's so thin, and you're through it in an instant, Shatner said in kind of dramatic session. And then he said, through the blue and into the black, which sounds like a Neil Young song to me. And that was out of the blue and into the black. Hey, my, might be on his, yes. Rock and roll will never die. There's a phrase in there, through the blue and into the black. What you see, Shatner says, is black, and what you see down is white. And he goes, that's something. And he told Bezos there on camera, what you've given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I am so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary. I hope never to recover from this. And Shatner was all about, in the euphoria afterwards, that we're so incredibly small. It's so fragile. And I loved his analogy when he just said, you are through the blue into the black in an instant and in space, like whipping a comforter sheet off of you. So I am sure that, you know.
An engineer would not have said that.
Pardon me?
An engineer would not have said that.
Oh, Marty said an engineer would not have said, that's right. And Marty brings up a great point. An engineer would have never had these words that Shatner's having. That's why we want normal people, not normal people, Marty. That's the wrong thing to say on an engineer. We want average Joe and Jane America.
Sorry.
I call them average Joe and Jane America, and always have in my space columns I've written for over 20 years. Average Joe and Jane America, you know, that's who we want to get their words, their vision, their images, their poems, their photography of all of this. Because Marty's right. And, you know, when the Apollo 11 astronauts came back from the moon, they were somewhat criticized for not having these glowing adjectives and so forth of their experience. And Buzz Aldrin said it many times. He said, Neil and I weren't cocktail conversationalists, okay? We were engineers. We didn't have that in us. We enjoyed it in our own way, and we're excited and thrilled in our own way, but that's not who we are, Buzz Aldrin has said. By the way, Buzz Aldrin's 92, and I don't know, Marty, if he's been tweeting that he's ready to go up on this or not. Could you imagine that? If 92-year-old Buzz Aldrin says, well, you know, I think I want to be the oldest guy in space, and sign me up. Heck, you don't know if his heart can handle it. Maybe he'll go up. But clearly, Jeff Bezos opened up this door on July 20th when he flew the first truly civilian crew with Wally Funk, who was 82, and that young teenager was 18, himself and his brother. I mean, come on. The president and CEO of the company put himself in this capsule. I'm not sure about that, and Marty and I were asking about that. We watched over an hour of two ladies from Blue Origin talking about the flight. But until it landed, I didn't realize it was the fourth time that rocket had flown and gone up. All right. And I didn't know how many times if this capsule was reused. I think this is the same capsule that the crew before used on there. And Jessica put a note up there that an astronaut on ABC TV was saying, yeah, the shuttle goes up a lot faster. And boy, does it ever. I mean, this was a slow elevator ride up. The shuttle with those solid rocket boosters on the side, all the astronauts said, you know you're going when those things kick in because you can't turn them off. And then they get up the first 2 minutes of the flight up to space. So
this is a different perspective.
Different perspective. This is like the e-ticket at Disneyland, Disney World, of course. And these two gentlemen in the foreground there, they paid for their flight. Bezos, is he smart or not? Does he have some marketing skills? I'm sure, yes, he does, to put one of the most a person that we all know, William Shatner, maybe not just from Star Trek, but all of the voiceovers he's done. He's done a lot of commercials. He was on Boston Legal, a very popular television show about a bunch of lawyers. And he's got a TV show right now called Unexplained.
Some history show.
Yeah, but it's The Unexplained, I think, is the name of that show. And I've watched it a couple times, all right. He's very engaging. It was fun to see him go around the world with those three other men, Larry Holmes, and that was kind of a funny thing around the country. But anyway, William Shatner, we give it to you. We give it to Jeff Bezos. We had a Orlando TV station to end our program today come in and want an interview one of us at the American Space Museum, and that's what I'm here for. And the question was, how has this Blue Origin suborbital flight affected the Space Coast? And I said it tremendously, because Jeff Bezos, just 15 miles from where we're sitting, is pad 36, that our Cape Canaveral gallery is mostly the equipment out of that pad 36. He's going to start launching humans on his new Glenn rocket, which is huge. It's 18 feet in diameter. Most of these rockets are 13 to 14 feet in diameter. And he will launch humans to space just like Elon Musk launched the Inspiration 4 crew to space about a month ago. And so we are set for a new era here where regular civilians are going to go to space. And something else I want to remind you of, my Stay Curious friends. We've got 10 humans on the International Space Station. One's an actress, the other's a film director, and they're doing a movie in space right now as we speak in the Russian Nauka space segment of our International Space Station. So how cool is that? When's Tom Cruise going to space and doing a movie? Well, you know, he's thinking about it. He's probably called Bezos already and says, hey, I want to try that suborbital flight out there. So we're glad to have a wonderful little astronaut program with you here. I'm going to look out this beautiful view outside this Blue Origin window, just like Captain Kirk did this morning, all right? And until then, you can beam me out, Jessica and Marty, and we'll be back tomorrow with more Hispanic astronauts and more space history to bridge the space between us. I'm ready. Beam me up.